All right, thank you all for coming and spending some time with me this afternoon. So we are going to be talking about the future of data analytics and how you can use AI, and particularly AI agents, to help you with that. Really going to be talking about how we can prepare and make sure we're ready when AI agents are available for all of us to just be able to ask the AI about the information and the insights that we need from our content, from all of our campaigns. But first, I want to paint a picture for you that's a little bit of a metaphor of where we are right now. So imagine I'm standing 14,000 feet above the ground, outside an airplane, and I'm looking back in at my daughter, who is about ready to make her first skydive. And it's at this moment right here where she looks at me and I can see the terror and fear in her eyes. And the only thing is, I can't let her know that I feel just as scared as she is right now. So I've been jumping out of airplanes for 35 years. I've spent the last 25 years teaching other people how to jump out of airplanes. I've got about 3,000 skydives, and about 700 of those have been either with people strapped to the front of me or with me holding on to people who were doing this for the first time. So I'm used to dealing with people who are in terrifying situations. But this was different, because this was my baby girl. I spent her entire life doing everything I could to protect her, to keep her out of dangerous situations. And now I was putting her in a situation where she was scared. But we were prepared. We had all the training that we needed. We had reviewed every potential scenario that she might face. We had rehearsed it physically and mentally so that she was ready to deal with the situation. So with a ready, set, go, we leave the airplane. And she did great because she was prepared mentally and physically. She had taken all the small steps that she needed to take to be ready to take that leap. And that is where we are today in higher ed with AI. This is a huge change that we are facing. This is something that creates fear in all of us because it's the unknown. We're not sure what it's going to turn into, what it's going to look like. And fear oftentimes is driven from one thing, and that is change. So I have, as was said in the introduction, thank you very much, I've been dealing with people trying to understand data, trying to explore data and figure out how it works for decades. If you want to download the slides from today, any of the templates I'm going to talk about, any of the prompts that I'm going to use, you can use the QR code or go to getmyslides.info. I'll also have this up on the last slide so you can grab it later as well. What are AI agents? Right? We hear a lot of we have a lot of talk about what AI agents are. We hear a lot of definitions about what AI agents are. So whenever I have questions like this, I always like to go to the experts. So if we look at what the leaders of all these foundation model companies say, Andrew Ng is the founder of Deep Learning AI. He's a professor at Stanford. He says that these are autonomous systems that understand natural language, they learn from experience, and they can perform tasks for users. I mean, that kind of sounds like ChatGPT, right? I mean, it understands our language. It can go perform tasks for us. It can write emails and create outlines. It learns from experience. All right, so maybe ChatGPT is kind of an agent. Demis Hassabis is the CEO of Anthropic. He says that these systems are going to be able to plan, act, reason, and use tools. So that reasoning capability is an addition to that, right? So when we look at deep research, Now that is a tool that is a reasoning model, right? We have deep research in ChatGPT, we have it in Perplexity, Gemini, and just a couple weeks ago, Claude added it to their list. So now we can use all these different deep research tools to really figure out how it's going to gather the information for us. It goes out and it uses Google, it uses the browser to pull that all together. So maybe the deep research tools are a kind of AI agents. And then we get Dario Amodei, the founder of, he's the founder of Anthropic, yes. He says, everything that human workers do will now eventually be done by AI systems. So that's a big leap, right? That's a big step forward. That is definitely not ChatGPT. So these AI agents are going to be able to perform work autonomously. So that's really kind of the indicator of where AI agents falls, where these different tools fall on the agentic landscape, is the level of autonomy that they have. Are they making decisions? Are they deciding what step to do next? Are they deciding how to give us the information that we want and to actually perform tasks for us? So when we're looking at the different AI models and tools that we have available to us now and trying to think which ones have different levels of autonomy, we always start with the foundation models, right? They have the least autonomy. They make the least decisions about how they're going to perform the tasks that we ask them to do. We lead them through the decision process. And then next are custom GPTs. So custom GPTs focused on one very specific process, one part of your workflow. You can tell them what to do. You give them the instructions. They have some level of autonomy because they will go out and they can run several different steps together. And then deep research, right? It will go out. It will figure out how to gather the information. It will figure out what's most relevant based on the context that you have provided to the tools. And then we get into automation. So most of the automation capabilities that we have right now come through third parties. So tools like Make and Zapier and N8N. These are tools where you have to go in and tell it which different tools, which different software, which different browsers you're going to want them to use. And then we get into chatbots, trained with very specific sets of data, but they have more autonomy. They can lead you to another chatbot. They can take you to a different section of the website. And then we get into these autonomous agents. This is where all the foundation model companies are moving. Everyone is chasing these autonomous agents because they know what they're going to be able to do is take several processes, string them together, create complete workflows across different software tools, different packages, and be able to provide us outputs from that. And we're going to be in control of where our check-in points are. How much freedom, how much autonomy do we want to give these tools? How much control do we want to give them? So we are transitioning from this era of traditional AI to this era of agentic AI. So what does that mean for analytics? It means that we are transitioning from traditional analytics, where we go to our analytics platforms, we go to our different tools, we look at the data and we interpret that. And then we build the reports and the dashboards. We're moving into this stage of agentic analytics, where we can just go into the AI tools and ask questions, and it will return results, which is great. But we know the way that these AI tools work, the better inputs you provide, the better outputs you're going to get. A writer has a much better chance of getting good outputs from a Claude or a ChatGPT creating text content than a non-writer does, because they know how to ask the questions, they know what information to provide. A photographer has a much better chance of getting good images out of Midjourney than I do, because I'm not a designer or visually talented. So how do we make sure that we're ready for AI agents? AI agents, when it comes to analytics, are going to have a certain set of skills. They're going to have natural language processing skills. That's a go-to, that's a given. They're going to be able to do real-time analysis. They're going to be connected to our analytics platforms. So as things are happening, they're going to be watching and monitoring the data as it comes in. And then they're going to be able to provide instant insights. So instead of you having to go in and look at all the data and figure out where the patterns and anomalies are, these tools will just be monitoring those. And you'll go into work in the morning and you're going to get an email or a message in your tool that says, here's what happened overnight. Here's what you should be aware of. Here are recommendations and changes that you should make in your content or in your landscape. I've been telling people for years, if you want to improve your content performance and you want to optimize your content, you need to look at your data. I don't tell people that anymore. Now I tell people you need to let AI look at your data. AI does a much better job of looking at large data sets and finding patterns and anomalies than we can do. We just don't have the time or the resources or the interest to go through that much data. I love Google Search Console. Google Search Console can give you so much information about your website performance. It can tell you how people are finding your website, what keywords they're searching on. It can tell you how your site is performing, the core web vitals, how fast your pages are loading. So much great data you can get out of Google Search Console. I hate Google Search Console. It doesn't give you the information that you want in the way that you want to consume it. It's really difficult to export out of. If you want to export all of your data, you can't do it in Search Console. It's going to give you a limited set of data. And you have to jump back and forth between different screens and try to compare things. So we always take our Google Search Console data and we put it into this Looker Data Studio dashboard. I love Looker Studio. It's a great tool. The template for this is at getmyslides.info. You can just make a copy of this, point it at your Search Console account, and then you're going to get all the information of the keywords people are searching, the pages that they're coming to for those keywords, how many times they're searching on those, how many times they're clicking through to your site, and then where you rank on average for that. So this is a great tool, but the problem is it does export all the data. So down at the bottom, you're going to see there's 950,000 keywords that this site is ranking for. So that's way more keywords than I have time to go through. So normally what I would do traditionally is I would just go through and kind of sort those a few different ways, look at the top 10 or 20, and try to get the insights out of that. You can just right-click on this dashboard, export it as a CSV, upload it into ChatGPT, and have it analyze that data. You can do all sorts of great things with the data that you pull out of Search Console using AI. So understanding what you can do with the foundation models is a great first step. Talked about the little steps that you need to set up along the way to manifest great change. Using your foundation models, figuring out how to set yourself up for success. So the foundations of any sort of analytics, first you have to define your goals. You have to know what your destination is, where you're going, what you're trying to accomplish. Regardless of channel, whether it's your website, your social, your newsletters, your emails, you need to know what your goals are. If you're creating content without a goal for that particular piece of content, you're wasting your time. Once you have your goals defined, then you have to know what your OKRs and KPIs are, right? Your objectives and key performance indicators, your key results, and then key performance indicators. So you have to know how you're going to measure progress towards your goals. Then, and only then, when you have those key pieces of information, then you can identify the metrics and data that you need to use. So many times people will come to me and say, we need a dashboard. Like, great, what information do you want on the dashboard? Everything. Put it all on there, right? So numbers without strategy are just noise, right? You have to have an understanding of where you're going to know what data that you should be measuring. Once you've identified the metrics, then you need to collect those. You need to go into the different analytics tools. You need to figure out where those metrics live and then figure out how to export those. Then you can provide those to AI with context. You have to give it information about why you're uploading those metrics. What sort of results are you looking for? What sort of indicators should it be searching for within your data to be able to provide you with insights? That's when you need to make sure you're asking the right questions. And then you have to validate. So you have to go back and make sure that the information that it's giving you is accurate, because we know these tools will hallucinate, and a lot of times we think that it's just making up text or it's making up facts. It will make up insights as well. It wants to answer you. It wants to provide you a solution. And a lot of times you can go back and look at it and be like, where is that data again? And they'll say, well, the data doesn't really exist. I just thought that you would want to know this. So when we're talking about foundation models, export your data from the analytics. Use strings of prompts. Ask your initial question and then dive deeper into that question. So I have an example that you can grab. This is basically taking any data from a channel, any sort of channel, website, social channels, newsletters, whatever you're collecting data from. You can put that into ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, use this prompt. There's bracketed areas in that prompt where you will put in information about what your goals are, who your audience is, what's your institution. Use URLs. It will go out and research that. And then you can ask it to give you ideas for new content that is strategically relevant, important to your audience. So this is a great way to pull insights from analytics using just the foundation models. Now, when you get into deep research, there's a lot more opportunities, and especially since recently ChatGPT added the ability to upload files to your deep research requests. So now you can upload data into these reasoning models. You provide all of the detail that you need to provide around that information, and then you can use one of these prompts. So this second prompt in that list on the Get My Slides page will do research around a particular topic area. It will look at all of the content on your website. It will go and scrape your website. It will look at your analytics data. It will go out and look at peer institution websites. It will look at different brands and businesses that are writing content around those topic and idea areas. And then it will identify gaps in your enrollment funnel, enrollment cycle. Your engagement cycle, sorry, not your enrollment cycle. So it'll figure out where you need to create content to fill those gaps, to keep pushing people through the engagement cycle. Custom GPTs are fantastic ways to optimize specific processes within your workflows. So custom GPTs, anytime I use a prompt more than 2 or 3 times, I'll create a custom GPT out of that. Because then it's always in there, it's always trained, it's ready to go. I can add the data that I need on demand. And then you can sequence custom GPTs together. That's one of my favorite things to do. If you build multiple different custom GPTs, you can open up a fresh prompt, you can just @ and it'll give you that list of all your different custom GPTs. So then you can ask it different questions about, I have one custom GPT for Google Analytics, one for Search Console, one for different Looker Data Studio reports, so one for newsletters, one's for emails. And then you can string those together and you can say, what are all the highest performing content on my website about this particular topic? What opportunities do I have in search based on this topic, based on this information? Every time I do a website optimization process, this is the sequence of audits that I run. I always start with a strategic audit, right? You need to know your goals. You need to know what you're trying to accomplish. Then you have to go into your user audit. Who is this for? Who is going to be able to take action against your content and help you reach your goals? I have custom GPTs that will help create personas so that then you can test content against those personas before you actually put it out and publish it. And then I go into the analytics audit. So now is where you gather the analytics from all the different tools, you collect that, and then you can use that to figure out where your high-performing content is, where your opportunities are. Then there's a performance audit where you look at how your website is performing, how your content is performing, whether it's loading fast, page load speeds, core web vitals, all of those different elements. And then an information architecture audit. So how is your navigation set up? How many levels deep does your site go? All of the specifics about the functionality of your website. And then the search audit is my favorite, right? This really identifies opportunities. And nowadays, you can't just do a search audit and think about keywords, because we know people are searching differently. They're not just using SEO on your website to optimize organic traffic, because people are searching on social. They're searching in communities. They're searching using AI. They're searching using voice. So you need to make sure that you are optimizing all of your content for all of those different channels and platforms, and making sure that you are providing the best answers to questions and the best solutions to problems that people have. Then you do the optimization, and then you start monitoring, and you come back and you do that process every quarter. So in the past, if I was doing this for a new website, depending on the size of the website, it would usually take me a week, 5 days, to run all the audits, to gather all of the content, to find the insights. Now I have custom GPTs for every audit on this list. I can do this entire process in a day. Most of that time is still spent gathering the data from the different platforms. I'm working on automations right now where I'll be able to use an N8N framework to go out and scrape the sites for me, to scrape the data for me. So ideally, within the next few months, I'll be able to do this entire process in a matter of hours. When I work with an institution, I always start off with some pilot projects, looking for low-risk, high-impact case studies that we can create. Most of the time, we'll start in marketing or admissions, we'll start with some sort of content creation project, because very low risk, fairly high results. We see about a 20 to 40% savings in time on projects like that. When we do data use cases and pilot projects, we see a 60 to 80% time savings for data analysis. Because really all you're doing is gathering the data and validating the outputs. Once you have your prompts and your workflows figured out, it's very fast to just put them in the tools, copy and paste your prompt, customize it for whatever goals you're trying to accomplish, and then go and validate the outputs once you get that back. When we talk about automations, these are multiple different programs that it's going out to, different software tools, different packages, different browsers, different capabilities, and it's stringing these operations together. So if you have it run a custom GPT, at the end of that, it's going to trigger the next step in the workflow. So if you look at this is a make.com automation. Basically, you put your LinkedIn data into Google Sheets. As soon as that data hits the Google Sheet, it triggers an action to go into ChatGPT. It will run, it'll run a different custom GPT in there to look at the data, to analyze it. That will trigger the next GPT that will take those insights from that, and then it will come up with text copy for LinkedIn posts. You can also add a connector to DALL-E, so it will create images for you. And then on the back end, you are just going in and looking at the 5 or 6 different posts that it generates based on your data that you provided, and figuring out what parts and pieces of those are relevant, strategic, creative, important for your audience. So this is an N8N framework. This is a little more complex, but if you do a podcast and you're looking for a podcast guest and trying to find information on them, this will go out and scrape their LinkedIn page. It will go look for other places they've appeared. It'll gather all that information together, and then it'll deliver that to you with your podcast framework in there, so it will know, here are some sample questions that you might want to ask. Here's information about them that might be more relevant to you. So extremely powerful what you can do with these automation tools. And then we know chatbots, right? Chatbots are trained with very specific data sets, and they use that data to inform the conversations they have. So you can ask them specific questions about that data, and they will answer using that. We know Element 451 has these great chatbots that are using all of your CRM data. They're connected to all of that. The questions that you ask pull back directly from that data. And now we get into these autonomous agents. This is what is coming. This is what we can expect. Multiple programs and browsers. Decision making. This is the key. It's going to be able to decide what the next step is, what next tool it should use. It will have the connectors in there already, so all you have to do is give it that initial prompt up front, and then it will run through that process. It'll have predictive analytics, so it'll know where to find the insights and where to go, what the next step is, and you're basically just going in and double-checking on that. HubSpot created an AI agent for their data. So what they did is they basically just created a connector to ChatGPT. So once you have that connector set up, you can go into ChatGPT and ask it questions about that. And we saw the Bolt agent jobs. So these are autonomous agents that you're going to be able to set up in your Element 451 framework, and you're going to be able to connect it to different data sets. It uses Zapier to connect to third-party data sets, and you're going to be able to ask these tools to run jobs against your analytics. Super powerful. And it'll be able to create dashboards for you to be able to handle reporting against that. So when you're thinking about how you're going to scale your analytics so that you are ready to face the AI agents, you need to get used to exporting your data from the analytics. You just need to understand the process, what content, what data lives where, and how you're going to get that data. Use prompt chains. Don't just ask a prompt, take the output from that and use that. Keep asking follow-up questions. Build some custom GPTs. They don't have to be complex. Anytime you have a process that you use multiple times, create a custom GPT for that. Just understanding how these tools work and knowing these small steps is going to help you when the AI agents come along, because you're still going to need to define the frameworks. You're still going to need to know what questions to ask, what content to put in there, what examples to give, and what data to provide. And then look at some of these automation tools. Whether or not you're creating a complex automation or a very simple automation, you have to know how these tools are going to string things together so that you know where to put the checks and balances in when these agents come along. And then monitor the changes in the AI landscape, because we know that AI changes very quickly. So we want to make sure that we are up to date so that when these capabilities come out, we're able to start adopting them and using them right away. AI is going to change our processes. It's going to change our workflows. It is going to change our jobs. It is going to take tasks that we already do and take those off of our plate, which I am looking forward to. There is a great custom GPT out there called Jobs GPT. It was created by SmarterX AI. You can go into ChatGPT, go into the GPT store, and search for Jobs GPT. The link for it is also on that Get My Slides page. Basically, you can put in your job title, or even better, you can put in your job description, and it will break down your job into all the tasks that you do, and it will tell you how much time AI could save you on each of those tasks. You can ask it follow-up questions. You can ask it what tools you might be able to use to help save time. A feature that they added a couple months ago is it can tell you what your job might look like in a few years based on AI. You can ask it what other jobs might be available for your skill set or for things that you like to do in a few years. I actually used this tool when I was working at the University of Rochester. I put in all the job descriptions for our entire marketing department, and it gave me a new org chart for what the department might look like in 2 years. Same number of people, twice as many positions. Half of the positions were AI agents. So when you start thinking about what a data analyst role would look like, right? Traditionally, right, most higher ed institutions don't have full-time data analysts in too many departments. It's usually somebody else's job. They're wearing a second hat. But if you had a full-time data analyst in the future, that role is probably going to be an insights manager, working with a team of AI agents, right? And we heard about this in the first keynote yesterday. We're going to see more and more AI agents integrated into our workflows, but they're going to have to be managed. Someone is going to need the expertise to be able to know what questions to ask and how to validate the outputs from that. But the result is going to be higher level strategic thinking, faster execution, and better outcomes. We're going to be able to do more with less. We're going to be able to have higher quality, more effective, and more efficient workflows. Not only is it going to change processes, workflows, and jobs, it's going to change our audiences. It's going to change the way they expect to be engaged with. Salesforce did a study. 84% of customers want to be treated like a person. They don't want to be treated like a number. That means personalization, which is more than just using their name to start the email. They really want to feel like you know them, like you're connecting with them, like you're trying to really help them solve their problems. And the way to do that is with data. Luckily in AI, we collect a lot of data about our students, about our alumni, but they expect us to be ethical and responsible about how we manage that data, which means we only collect the data that we need. And any data that we do collect, we use that to inform our content, to inform our communications. When it comes to students, students are 52% more likely to apply to your university, to your college, if they can find the information they're looking for on your website. Website search is traditionally very difficult and very, bad, right? How many times do you go searching, even on your own website, and the results are not what you're expecting? And then you go try to find it in your navigation, and that can be even more of a nightmare. AI conversational search is coming to websites. It's going to make things so much easier. Chatbots are a great way to help people find things on your site. Providing those sorts of tools and those sorts of resources on your website is a great way to encourage students to apply to your school. 77% of students would like to use an AI agent for specific things, for time management, for academic advising, for course registration. They are fine with using agents for things like that. I was working with a school who created virtual teacher's assistants. Fantastic, the students loved them. At 1 in the morning, if they were working on a project, they knew their human TA was not available or awake. Their professor certainly wasn't. So they could go to the virtual TA and ask it questions. But they didn't get rid of the TAs because the graduate students still need the experience, and students want to connect with humans. They want to connect with real people. So when you're thinking about how to prepare for what's next, how to make sure you're ready for AI agents, build AI fluency. Start using these different tools. Start experimenting with how to use data and put it into your different AI levels of AI tools that you have. Scale your data analysis. So if you're currently using your foundation models to help analyze your data, start creating chatbots. If you're using chatbots, start using automations. Right? Work down that cycle. Use custom GPTs. Try to make sure that you're understanding all the parts and pieces that are going to go into informing the decisions that these AI agents are going to need to make. I tell people all the time, custom GPTs are training wheels for AI agents. All custom GPTs are probably going away when AI agents come. But all the work you do on those, all the work that you put into these automations are all going to help inform those AI agents of how they need to run the workflows, how they need to run the processes, and how they're going to work. This is a big one, establishing data and content governance. Our data and content landscapes in higher ed tend to be abysmal. We have outdated content. We have inaccurate content on our websites. And when you integrate AI into your website, all of a sudden it's going to return that information because it doesn't know what's inaccurate or out of date. AI is a great tool to help you figure out how to clean up your content landscape. AI is a great tool to help you figure out how to integrate your data silos together. It can start helping you with your governance processes. And then create a roadmap, create an implementation strategy. start using that in your data conversations that you're having so that you know where you're going and how you're going to set yourself up for success. When my daughter jumped out of a plane, she was not ready for this kind of change. She was not ready to switch from standing on a solid surface to falling towards the ground at 120 miles an hour. In higher ed, we are not prepared for the kind of change that we are going to experience from AI. But when she got down to the ground, when she landed safely, and when she took off her helmet and her goggles, she looked at me and she said, "I didn't think the sky could look that different." This is the opportunity that we have right now to change our perspective with AI. This is the moment to look at your workflows from a different viewpoint. This is where we can guide our teams into the future with clarity, not chaos. It's about more than efficiency. It's about reimagining the way we do the work that we do. Let's face this future with purpose. Let's face it together. The question isn't whether you're ready. The question is, will you make the jump? Thank you very much. You can if we got time?
Yeah, we have a couple minutes. Is there any questions anyone has? Right there. I got you.
There's a lot of discussion in the AI world about how AI is going to quickly replace entry level, but can you speak to your thoughts on the necessity of a PhD as we talk about data analysis and looking at data through reasoning? Yeah, will the PhD be challenged as well?
I think every position, every skill level is going to be challenged for sure. I think if we learn how to integrate AI, we're going to all be able to reskill and upskill ourselves to still be relevant. I think there's a huge need for expertise to be able to direct AI, to be able to validate. On the input and the output side, you still need the expertise, you still need the understanding. I do believe that a lot of the entry-level, like repetitive, monotonous work is going to go away, but I'm fine with that. I think we're going to see a lot more jobs being exposed. I think a lot of the entry-level positions that we're going to see, the new positions, are going to be people who have an understanding of how to leverage these tools. I think AI can help fill the knowledge gap much faster, and the skills gap, I think, is going to be the people who understand AI versus the people who don't.
Thank you so much, first of all. Let me kind of start a little narrative. So as you're exploring data, I know there's so many multiple components of our student through the process. When you're trying to explore the data, and I know that human element becomes important, what key features do you want to hone in on when you're trying to build that analysis, that custom GPT, to focus on what part of that data relative to that task or segment?
Great question. And I think so much of that goes back to the focus on goal and audience, right? Once you really understand what you're trying to accomplish and then who the audience is that you need to impact or connect with to be able to make that change, that will help inform your custom GPT creation. Now, I think custom GPTs are very process focused. When you start looking at entire workflows where you're looking at the lifetime value of student to alumni to advocate for your institution, then we're going to need to really start figuring out how to connect those data sets. Because we know right now our data tends to be very siloed. People will get emails from 5 different parts of the institution that don't even know that they're no longer a graduate student, now they're an alumni, or they were an undergraduate student, and where are they now? So I think AI is going to be able to help us kind of get a better picture of all of the different aspects of a certain individual. and it's going to be able to help us personalize those communications a lot better. I think now the key is just kind of understanding where those silos are and how much repetition we're going to have, for individual entries across our data landscape.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Everyone, let's hear it for Brian.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Yeah.